Hi 11s, today we're going to deconstruct the text intervention criteria sheet to ensure that you are ticking all the boxes and making sure you're meeting the requirements of the task to achieve the best that you possibly can. So the first criteria that we're looking at is understanding and responding to context. So this refers to basically the text intervention genre as a whole and whether you understand the context of the task and what it is that you are doing. So the first one refers to the genre itself. So an exploitation of a range of narrative patterns and conventions to achieve specific purposes. So the specific purposes are whether you are meeting the requirements of what a text intervention is. So we're not writing a monologue, we're not writing a short story, yours is a text intervention. So that includes your structure, so having an orientation, a complication, the climax and a resolution all embedded within your story, and it's effectively achieved. Also things like your title, writing in third person, sticking to one setting so that you can really explore that setting and making sure your intervention isn't covering too many different events. So if you can really control that and use a range of all of those things to mesh together, that would put you in the A range as an exploitation of all of those things. A B is effective control, and then a C is just use of those things to achieve some purposes, whereas a B and an A are specific purposes. The second criteria is about your selection and organisation of subject matter. So an A would mean synthesis of that relevant subject matter, whereas a C is just that organisation and sequencing of relevant subject matter. So a B and an A gives you the chance to go a little bit further and really synthesise and go into depth with your narrative. But what we're looking for is that you have correct selection of your subject matter and organisation as well. So it needs to draw upon the novel and the events that occur. Make sure you're mirroring the events of the novel and not changing events. Making sure that your character choices are accurate, who is involved in the scene, who is there and who isn't. Don't add things that don't exist. And also your organisation of that. Does it mirror what is mentioned in the novel? Also about the importance and relevance of it. There's no point picking a spot in the novel that's not going to add value overall, then we're not going to really learn anything from it. So it is about your choice of where you want your text intervention to go as well. So we want it to add relevance and add extra information to the novel. We should learn something from your intervention. And the last one is about your role of the writer and how well you can execute being the author of this intervention. So if you can establish and maintain a role, that puts you in that C level. A B or an A is establishment and control of that, or manipulation and control of that. Manipulation refers to how well you can achieve something like showing and not telling and maintaining your role throughout. So you might have some nice moments of showing, not telling, but it's not maintained throughout, so that would maybe only put you about in the B range. It's also about writing in the correct style of the novel, so following the way the novel's written, writing in third person the whole way throughout, or first person, sorry, not third person, in past tense, because it has already happened, so you can't mix in and out of tenses. So making sure everything stays the same for first person from the perspective of your chosen character. You might also like to consider those the little stylized sections of the novel that Death adds in with those pretty little symbols either side of it. That's part of that role of the writer as well. Using lots of figurative language to help with your description there. Okay, the second one is about understanding and controlling textual features. So this is all to do with your writing. So your sentences, your spelling, vocab, punctuation, all of that kind of stuff. So the first one is a discerning combination of a range of grammatically accurate language structures for specific effects, including your clauses and sentences in written text. So it says it right there, a range of. So you want to have a range of different sentence types that are correctly written and grammatically accurate, but for effects. So you should have some shorter sentences for effect to help build tension perhaps. You should have those then longer passages of description that really show insight into the setting or what's happening. So you need a mix of everything. So you can have that discerning combination for an A, just control of a range of different ones for some effects for a B, and then just use of. Okay, and they're mostly grammatically accurate. So if you have a few errors throughout, that's going to start putting you down here. The second one refers to your cohesion and how well your story links and flows, maybe not just a whole bunch of ideas on the page that just jump from one event to another. So using linking words, but as well as how well your ideas flow one on top of each other, and that's about following that structure. So does your story link and flow? It should build up to a climax. Use time indicators, use linking words, use words for cause and effect, all of that to help it flow. Then the third one is about your vocabulary. So using a wide range of apt vocabulary for specific purposes. So there is no point adding in German words, for example, if they aren't used in the proper context for that specific purpose. Okay, you really have to understand where you're placing your words and what purpose they are showing. This also just comes down to your level of vocabulary that you're using. Okay, try and use a range of different words of apt vocabulary. Your word choice, don't try to be fancy. Sometimes it can come back to bite you. It doesn't actually make sense in that context. Here as well, like I said, have you used those German words appropriately? We don't want them overused, only like they are used in the novel if you're going to use them. This also would refer to your show not tell concept, and are you using lots of figurative language to help with your descriptions. So again, it's use of for a C, effective use for a B, or a discerning use of a wide range for an A. The last one here is about mode appropriate features to achieve specific effects. So there's your big word there about having an effect on something, whereas a C is just for a purpose. So when we're referring to written features, it is a little bit of a holistic criteria where we are looking at, you know, all your sentencing, punctuation, things like that. But in particular, we're looking at it for things like the layout. You know, have you achieved the layout of the novel? The title, the paragraphs, have the paragraphs been laid out correctly? Your headers and footers, so you'll notice that some pages have the title of the novel as a header, and then the footer is the page number. On the other side is the chapter header, but with your title you shouldn't have the chapter header on that page, things like that. Also your dialogue, your use of dialogue would come in here. Have you punctuated it correctly? Have you used it correctly? Have you laid it out correctly? All of the things like that. So just this is a holistic thing about paragraphing and all of those extra mode appropriate and genre appropriate features. The last one is creating and evaluating meaning. So this is really drawing upon your knowledge of the novel as a whole and things like the themes, symbols, characterization, the plot, all of that. So the first one is about the ways, ideas and attitudes and values, how they underpin text and influence audiences. So you should be able to manipulate some of the themes and symbols from the novel in your intervention somehow. Okay, you should be picking an event that draws upon some of these so that it can influence your chapter and what's happening. So you can try to incorporate them in there, use something that links to the novel somehow. Okay, I've got one in there, but that's just an appropriate use of. Whereas if you can effectively manipulate that in there and it implicitly be implied through your descriptions and events, then that's what's going to give you your B and your A. So those top ones refer to the themes and the symbols of the novel and how they help match the plot line that you're writing about. The second one is about the creation of perspectives and representations of concepts, identities, times and places. So times and places is your historical context, so Nazi Germany and what's happening there, whether you fully understand this time period, and also the setting where we are. Identities refers to your characters and your characterization, and have you effectively mirrored the character that you've chosen to do, and also any other characters that may appear in your intervention. And also, does your language choice suit your character or the time and place? So all of those things, whether it mirrors and would fit in well with the novel and just slot in with the events of the novel that are already there. The last one is a holistic, again, kind of criteria, your piece as a whole. So how well written was it overall? Aesthetic features can refer to things like the show don't tell stuff with the figurative language. It can also refer to your layout and how well you've mirrored the style of the novel in terms of your layout, and just basically have you achieved the purpose of a text intervention that would fit well with The Book Thief and mirror the characters in the events of the novel.